What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster-in-chief. And tonight, in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with another episode of Spoiler Talk. Streets of New Capenna has officially debuted. For those of you who missed the stream, it was on Twitch and YouTube. They did the usual little video where they kind of described a few of the mechanics, and then they had a longer stream on daily MTG. Which I actually did not catch, and there's a reason for that. I didn't want to do this video having already seen all the cards. I like to do these a little bit differently from the way everybody else does them, where they already kind of know exactly where which deck these are going to be fitting into, and have extrapolated all of these crazy ideas out of the cards. I just prefer it to be like sort of a first impressions video. So some of these I did see in the YouTube, but they only showed us like one crime family leader and one kind of card that goes with it, and a mechanic. And then they showed us a few planeswalkers, and that's it. So the majority of these cards I have not seen at all. This is my very, very first time reading them, and like I said, that's the way I like to do my spoiler talks. So we're starting off with Disciplined Duelist, which is the Bant crime family. I believe it's the Brokers. Sorry if I get a few of these things wrong. I'm just kind of starting to get immersed into the whole Streets of New Capenna lore, so bear with me while I fumble through some of these names, but I do believe that the Bant colors blue, white, and green are the Brokers. Human Citizen, double strike. Disciplined Duelist enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. What is a shield counter? I kind of like this. This is a cool new thing. It's kind of a weird ward, but that only lasts for one thing. I guess there'll be a way to like reapply shield counters on things, which I hope, because that'll be cool. But a shield counter just means that if the creature is dealt damage or attempted to be destroyed, you first remove that shield counter before it actually dies. So an opponent would have to hit it with 2 removal spells, or it would have to take damage twice before it dies. So really, really nice. And don't forget that these counters will count as things being modified. They did actually mention that in the YouTube video they put up. So kind of maybe going into some modified shenanigans there. We'll have to find out. But yeah, this is probably the signpost uncommon for the set, and looking really, really strong in the Brokers deck. Then we finally got the Brokers crime family leader, Falco Spara, because previously we'd already had 3 others spoiled. Down here, where are they? We've already had the Maestros, the Cabarettis, and what are these guys called? The Obscura, I believe. But there's 5 of them. It's 5 crime families. So finally we got the Bant one, or the Brokers. Falco Spara, the Pact Weaver. 4 mana, 1 colorless, and Brokers colors, Bant colors, for a 3/3 Frampler, Bird Demon, flying trample. When it enters it also enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it, so a little bit harder to remove the turn it comes into play. And then you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control, in addition to paying their other costs. Don't forget, there was a card down here that was spoiled that people are talking very little about, because we got into the charms, and then the crime bosses came out and stuff, but I remember very well. Broker's Ascendancy. At the beginning of your end step, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. So, I mean, man, the power level of this set is really just looking freaking insane. This thing is going to be putting counters on all of your creatures every turn, and then you can just remove one of them from one of those creatures, and that'll allow you to cast the cards off the top of your library. Fan-freaking-tastic. This is definitely going to be a 3 of in your Brokers deck, I think. Then we've got Ledger Shredder. 2 mana, 1/3 Bird Advisor. At first, my first reaction when I saw this on the stream was Magecraft. Some support for Magecraft. So whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, the Ledger Shredder connives. So we've already seen the connive mechanic on the Obscura crime boss. So this is an Obscura card. it appears. What is connive? Basically, you draw a card, then discard a card. And if you discarded a non-land card, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Connive's going to be interesting. We've got that bird advisor already from Strixhaven, Mavinda. That allows you to cast instant and sorceries from your graveyard. So, you know, discarding non-land cards into your yard is probably going to be a good thing in this deck. And I like that, you know, you get rewarded for double casting. Maybe some kind of flying magecraft deck coming up that rewards you for casting lots of cheap cantrips. And, you know, maybe stuff with flashback ending in your yard that you can cast again. That sort of thing. We'll have to keep an eye on this one. It's a nice little rare 2-drop there from the Obscura Crime family. Then we've got a nice little instant here called A Little Chat, which shows off another new mechanic. 2-mana instant, casualty 1. As you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. When you do, copy the spell. Wow. So what you get to copy? You look at the top 2 cards of your library, you put one of them into your hand and the other into the bottom of your library. This is the mechanic from the oh my goodness, what are they called? The Xander, the Maestros? The Maestros. And pretty sweet little instant. I mean, there's definitely, it's the type of deck where you're going to be having little things to sacrifice all over the place, right? And then you get to essentially draw 2 cards and put stuff into your bottom of the library. That's not a you know, it's kind of like scrying on a cheap little instant. I think this is definitely going to see some play. You know, you sacrifice your eye twitch, your shambling ghast, and not only do you get the value from that, but you get to copy the spell. That's, I think, going to be really, really good. Then the next crime family, the Cabarettis. No, sorry, these are the Riveteers. I am going to really like the Riveteers. To be honest, I would probably choose the Cabarettis if I were to pick a crime family, because I'm a big party animal, and also Naya. You know how much I love Naya. It's kind of like your go wide aggro creatures type strategy. But if I had to pick my second affiliation, I would definitely go for the Riveteers. Ziatora, the Incinerator, is their family leader. It's a 6-mana demon dragon, 6/6 flying. Okay. When I read this card, you'll start to understand where this deck, you know, the direction that this deck is going in. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Ziatora, the Incinerator, deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. So this is going to be able to like fit into like pre-existing dragon decks as a demon dragon and the treasure stuff. So treasures are still sticking around, which is quite cool. I think they'll probably get rid of treasures after the next rotation, if that, because I mean this, yeah, no, it looks like treasures are going to be around for a while, because there's treasures in Crimson Vow and here. So treasures are still still a part of Magic, which is cool. But what I really want to focus on is this ability to sacrifice a creature and deal damage to any target equal to that creature's power. I can already think of so many shenanigans that is just wow. Wow. I mean, come on. How strong is this card? Of course, it's 6 mana. It's pretty expensive, but you get a 6/6 flyer and with a really, really nice text box. And Jax is here, the Troublemaker, is showing off Blitz, which is the Riveteer's mechanic. Jax is the Troublemaker. Can be cast for its Blitz cost. Instead of its 3 colorless and a red, you cast it for 1 colorless and a red. If you cast it for its Blitz cost, it gains haste. And when this creature dies, you draw a card. Really cool. And you have to sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. So if you order your triggers properly, you know, there's a setting in Arena where you can order your triggers. You put the Ziatora trigger before the Jax's trigger at the beginning of your end step, And instead of it just sacrificing and drawing a card, which is already good enough, you also get to do 2 damage to the opponent's face with Ziatora. So, and there's going to be lots of these blitz cards. So you can see what they're going for here. You just have Ziatora in play. You cost your cards for their blitz cost. They get in for hasty damage, and then at the end of do something cool. In this case, we will get to what else Jaxus does. But then before they can die, you sacrifice them to Ziatora, and so not only did they attack for damage, you also go for damage with the Ziatora's ability. This is going to be a really fun crime family to play, the Riveteers. So what else does Jaxus do? It's 1 red mana, tap it, discard a card. You create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste. When this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. Oh, my word. This is a sweetly designed human warrior. I love the art, everything about it. Unfortunately, it's legendary. But I think this is definitely going to see a lot of play, and I cannot wait to play around it, or build around it. Next up, we've got the Devilish Valet, 3 mana trample haste with Alliance. So this is another mechanic from one of the other crime families. I believe it's the anyway, sorry, that's what I meant about stumbling around on some of these things. I only watched the stream once. But it's one of the new mechanics. So Alliance, whenever another creature. Oh, okay, yes, this is the Cabarettis. This is the Cabarettis. This is the one that I'm gonna be most amped to play. And like when they spoiled this new mechanic, I was just like, holy crap! This just makes it so much better. Trample and haste, so not bad. Even though it's just got 1 power, but Alliance kind of mitigates this problem. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you double the Devilish Valet's power until end of turn. So it becomes a 2/2 with trample and haste every time, and it's whenever. So you can multiple creatures, it just keeps doubling. So this can get pretty big pretty quickly if you have a lot of cheap creatures to play, which is kind of going to be the whole point of the deck. So, whoo! Trample haste. Drop it for 3, maybe on turn 6, you've got it, or, turn 5, you've got another 2 little 1-drops to drop on top of it. Holy cannoli. This is going to be such a fun card to play as well. Next up, we've got another new mechanic, Hideaway. Apparently, it's a returning mechanic. I was not playing Magic during the time when this mechanic was first introduced. I can't even remember the set that they named during the stream, but this is probably the card I'm the least hyped on from today's spoilers, probably because it's blue. Hideaway 5. So whenever this enchantment enters the battlefield, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. So it's going to be, depending on what the number is there, you look at that many cards. In this case, it's 5, because it's probably, going to have to do something with how much the card costs. It's a 5 mana casting cost card, enchantment. And so you look at the top 5 cards of your library, and then you exile one of them face down. And you put the rest into the bottom of your library in a random order. Then whenever you draw your first card, this is so convoluted. Whenever you draw your first card during each of your draw steps, draw a card. So you get to draw an additional card every time. It's kind of, the flavor is on point, wiretapping. You're like getting additional information, and then you get additional information. Like you're kind of, it's really gonna help those blue mages a lot. I can already foretell CGB really enjoying this one. But so you draw a card, and then you draw another card, and then when you have 9 or more cards in hand, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So really strong in the decks that is going to make it work. It's just like I said, blue is not really my thing. You guys know that. It's not really my favorite color at all. I usually just splash a bit of blue for counter spells if I really have to, but it's really not my favorite color at all. But there's so many cards in standard right now that are going to help with that. There's the cleave card. That yeah, let me show you. Boop, boop, boop. Where is it? Yeah. you have... Okay, no, sorry. My mistake, not the cleave card. I meant this one. The class, the wizard class. Silly me. You have no maximum hand size. So you play this, and then that comes down later, and, you know, it's not a problem that you're going to have 9 cards in hand. I mean, that's the only way I can think about this working. Or there's also the MDFC that does the same thing. Seagate Restoration. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. There's also Ren that does the same thing on her ultimate, which I don't think I've ever gotten off or had gone off on me, but still, you have no maximum hand size. There's going to be some shenanigans possible for sure with wiretapping, so keep your eyes peeled for this one. But probably not on my channel. Next up, we've got Hello Fountain. I think this is one of the cards that Maro was hinting at during his Blogatog spoiler teaser post thing that he does, where, you know, he said finally mono white is going to get some card draw. This looks like it's going to be one of them. It's a mythic 3-mana artifact. It appears to be a hound. You know, Halo is this resource that everybody's after in the Streets of New Capenna. And it's a fountain of the stuff. So you pay 1 white, tap an untapped creature you control. Untap a tapped creature you control. So giving some creatures a kind of pseudo-vigilance for very cheap. You know, you get in for damage, and then you pay 1 white mana, untap it, and you get some additional value. You create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. So this might actually fit quite well with the Cabarettis. Because you're making these green and white. It's just the, you know, red is the only other color missing there, and you're going wide. You make these little citizens, and that's a good thing in that deck. Then you can pay, and this is where it starts to get a bit weird because it's a lot of white, right? And that makes it, you know, more and more unplayable in a 3-color deck. But 2 white is still doable. This time you're untapping 2 tapped creatures you control, you draw a card. And then the last line there, it's you know, one of those really freaking weird lines of text that's probably never gonna get used, but in certain matchups, you know, you've had those weird like board locks where everybody's just playing more and more creatures, and no one's willing to attack, you know, in decks that don't run sweepers and that sort of thing, and we're just sort of like waiting to see who runs out of cards first or whatever. In this case, you can eventually pay you know, 5 white mana, and untap 15 tapped creatures you control, you win the game. So you swing in. Really, it's, you know, they always print at least 1 or 2 cards per set that have "you win the game" written on it. This is probably the hardest one to get going that I've seen in a while, but we're definitely going to try it. And nice that you get to draw some cards in a white card. Then, this is a sweet one, the Galagritas. Going again in the Cabaretti crime family with the alliance mechanic. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. So alliance, it's like to do with creatures entering the battlefield. So you're getting rewarded for playing creatures. This is an elf druid 2-drop 1/1, and whenever, you know, a creature enters the battlefield, you can either put a +1/+1 counter on it, create a tapped treasure token, which kind of sucks, but if it wasn't tapped, this would be super duper busted. So I guess they had to, they probably did some play testing and like they added this afterwards, in my opinion. But still, a little bit of ramp potentially for the following turn, and then you can gain 2 life. Wow. Like, also nice that it's an elf druid, so, you know, so I can already think of some tribal stuff that we might be able to do, giving elves some love again. We'll have to see how this fits in, but probably just in the Cabaretti go wide deck that's looking, you know, shaping up quite well. Then, next up, we got some planeswalkers to look at. Elspeth Resplendent, 5 mana, 3 colorless, 2 white, 5 loyalty planeswalker. She comes into, sorry, let's zoom this in. The text is really quite blurry on this card. You choose up to 1 target creature. The +1 is fantastic, and you only need to do it twice to get to the ultimate. Cannot wait to play this. Just going back to a point I made in a video that I put up about 3 or 4 days ago. It was called AO, AO, where we have the new 5 mana dragon from Kamigawa. Where I was saying that I have a feeling that after rotation, mono white is going to lose its position as the top aggro deck in the format, and it was mono red. Wizards does a good job of like rotating these things, and I don't think it's gonna maintain its position as a mostly aggro deck. Like right now, you don't play mono white mid range. You don't really play mono white control. Whereas in previous sets, previous formats before the last rotation, mono white was definitely a more sort of mid range control type thing. And I have, they've been slowly releasing these cards that are going to be sticking around after rotation that are hinting towards a more mid range strategy. And I like how this fits into that very, very well. And you're still going to be playing creatures and things. And man, they're so good. They're so good. This fits into, like, right now, you'll still be able to play it in your, like, white weenies. Perfectly fine. And then later on, after rotation, when, Luminarch Aspirant goes and all that stuff, it's going to be great in your more mid-rangey control type strategies. So, the +1, you choose up to one creature and you put a +1/+1 counter and the counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance on it. What? You can give a creature +1/+1, flying, and or vigilance, and or first strike, and or lifelink, and or vigilance on it. That is insanely good, and you get to just do that twice. So you've probably played a few things that are going to get in the way of the opponent attacking your Elspeth. And you give those things that are in the way, more power and toughness, and potentially whatever it is that you need to make it so that they can block more effectively. The first strike is just bonkers to me, but lifelink is also great. Flying, I mean, wow, 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 wow. And you only need to then plus this one more time. So on the third turn that it's in play, so turn 8, definitely hinting at a more mid-rangey / control type of a deck. You get to -7, and you create 5 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying, which is a total of 15 power. If we had a way of giving those haste as well, maybe in some sort of like splash red Boros, I don't know, but who cares? I mean, that's a lot of power that you're adding to the battlefield. If the opponent doesn't have the sweeper, he's dead the next turn, kind of no matter what. And then the -3 isn't bad either. You get to look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it, and put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. I like that it's a permanent card. So it's not a creature. So this could even be like, a wedding invitation that ends up with a shield counter on it. So now it can, before they get rid of your wedding invitation, they have to target it twice. Really, really cool. It could also be some sort of a 3-mana planeswalker or whatever. It's a permanent card. Really, really nice. Then, or it could also be a land. Then, that's it. Amazing planeswalker. I cannot wait to play this one. It's definitely the type of thing that I like to play. And stay tuned for day 1. I will be crafting that up straight away. Next up, for those of you who have not been following the story at all, there's this Phyrexian Predator that somehow wants to be left in peace from the rest of the Phyrexians. And so the whole thing is, enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Urabarask makes a tentative alliance with Vivian, and Vivian ends up bumping into Elspeth on the streets of New Capenna and brings her to meet Urabarask. Of course, Elspeth was raised in a Phyrexian dungeon since she was a kid, so she's immediately distrustful. But again, like I said, enemy of my enemy is my friend. There's supposed to be some, I'm not super well versed in the lore, but there's supposed to be a Phyrexian you know, back on the Phyrexian home planet or something that is like trying to wipe out all life on the universe, and that's somehow getting in the way of Urabarask just being able to chill, which is all he wants to do, or she wants to do, or it wants to do. So yeah, this is going to be, I mean, now we've got 3 Predators in Standard: Vorinclex, Jingataxius, and now Urabarask. This one's interesting. I don't know how this will function exactly. I'm still trying to figure it out. I saw some people mentioning the there's that wizard that doesn't allow, you know, you can only play cards from your hand and nowhere else. So that it's now out of Standard. Code spell wizard. Oh, I can't remember the freaking name of the card. Let me jump into my client here. Wizard, and it's in historic. And it's white. Dranith Magistrate, human wizard from Ikoria. Your opponent can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hand. So if you put the 2 things together, you know, not in our case because I don't play historic, but pretty buster. And let me tell you why. So first of all, it's a 5 mana hasty 4/4, which is a little bit understated. Usually for 5 mana you're getting 5 power and toughness, although you know, Goldspan Dragon is also a 4/4 with haste, so I guess the haste sort of like makes up for the fact that it's only a 4/4. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So that's obviously really good. You exile the top card of your library and you draw a card. And this is going to be happening on like turn 6, where you know, you should have, well, you will have 5 mana available to cast the card that you've just exiled from the top of your library, because, you know, the previous turn you spent that 5 mana to cast Urabarask. So you will, there'll be less chance of you having to, you know, just exile that card and be unable to cast it. And especially if you build your deck correctly. But the weird bit is, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead they exile the top card of their libraries, they may play it this turn. So you're giving them the same ability that you have. There's going to be some matchups where that's like completely the worst freaking thing you want to be giving to your opponent. I don't understand why they would do that. It just kind of makes it a bit scuffed, in my opinion. I was hoping to find some comments down here from others, but these have been up for such a short time. Oh, here we go. Okay. Interesting. This is the first Predator whose ability that applies to the other player isn't overt blocking. Yeah, the F card you drew wasn't one you were going to play, you lose it, but it's still usable for a turn. Interesting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Card dummy good. They never draw again. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Am I missing something? Let me know in the comments. Not too hyped on Urabarask personally. Not my cup of tea. Next up, we got the Getaway Car. Look at this car, man. This is the art's pretty freaking sweet. I like what they've done. So it's a 3 mana vehicle. So a little bit of support for vehicles continuing. I like when they do these like cross set, you know, support. We got a lot of vehicles now in Kamigawa. Here's another one. And the Getaway Car fits the whole crime boss mafia thing. It's got haste. It's crew 1. Very cheap crew cost. And whenever it attacks or blocks, you return up to 1 target creature that crewed it this turn to its owner's hand. So that's a tiny little bit of a downside. But crew 1 means it could just be like whatever. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. We'll have to see how that fits into like existing vehicle decks, or you know, if it'll synergize well with something in the set that's currently still being spoiled. Next up, this is gonna be, holy crap, oh so busted. I think this will get nerfed in alchemy very quickly, and may even end up in some kind of a ban. I can already I looked at it, and in a second I had an interaction in mind. So Nixilis, the adversary, is if you, again, haven't been following the storyline, he's not part of any of the crime families. He's kind of this new guy that's come in and trying to like take over the Halo supply or something like that. So listen to this playline. Once I've described the card, then I'll tell you the playline. So it has some static text. Casualty X. the copy isn't legendary and has a starting loyalty X. So as you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do, you copy the spell. The copy becomes a token. So you sacrifice a 6/6, for example. You get an additional Ob Nixilis, the adversary. So you'd get 2 of them on the battlefield that turn. The legendary rule doesn't apply because the copy isn't legendary, and it would have 6 loyalty because you sacrificed the 6/6. Okay? So now you got 2 of these in play. What do these things do? +1, each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or a devil, you gain 2 life. I think that little bit of like, if you control a demon or devil is sort of just like extra added bonus, unless there's a bunch of really cool like demons and devils that we get. We do have some in standard, but I don't think it's quite ready to be like demon tribal, although there is the Archon of Avernus, Azariel, that is a 4-drop in red, a planeswalker that has seen almost no play, but it poops out devils every turn. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe that'll be a thing. Then the second ability, -2, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. So that's kind of sticking with the devil's theme. You know, the ones that you get from Burn Down the House as well as Zariel. So pretty cool. And then -7, target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. You can either, do that to the opponent, because it seems like you're trying to get them to mill themselves. They discard a card, and if you control it, and or you do it to yourself and draw 7 cards, and you might not be too bothered about losing 7 life because you're gaining all this life with the +1. There's so many ways that you can use this -7, but listen to this playline, okay? In the already existing Oni Cult Anvil Rakdos Sacrifice Artifacts deck, you play out, let's say, your... What's the little vampire that makes a blood token on turn 1? Poof! Let me get the name for you. I cannot believe I am forgetting so many card names. It's what happens when you record videos at 3 in the morning. The Voldarin Epicure. You play your Epicure on turn 1. You play your whatever, Oni Cult Anvil on turn 2. On turn 3, you play your Oni Cult Anvil on turn 2, you sacrifice the blood token, you make a little 1/1. On turn 3, you cast Ob Nixilis, the adversary, and you sacrifice the 1/1 you made with the anvil, which then triggers the anvil, blah, 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 and you get a another Ob Nixilis, and then you just start +1ing both of them. And then you continue with the rest of your game plan. But you on turn 3, you've got 2 of these planeswalkers in play. You start making devils. This is gonna be really busted, I think, and we'll 100% see play in standard, like on day 1. I'm gonna be crafting 3 of straight away. Next up, we got Cut the Profits. I have not... This is the first time I'm seeing this card. Sorcery, speed, casualty 3. So casualty is, again, this thing where you sacrifice a thing to, when it enters the battlefield. So you have to sacrifice 3 creatures? Is that it? I'm not entirely sure, but you draw X cards and you lose X life. Nice. Casualty 3. Does that mean you have to sacrifice a 3 power thing? Or you have to sacrifice 3 different things? 2 black picks. Card was just down back, blah, 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 blah. No idea. No idea. We'll have to see how this, this is Casualty X. So you dump X into it. Pay 2 black. Casualty 3. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out. But I really like the art. It seems like they're pouring gold onto this guy's back or tattooing him with gold, like adding gold, molten gold into your tattoos. That seems pretty cool. While they pin him down, might be some sort of crime family emblem that they're marking onto his skin. Another vehicle. Mysterious Limousine, 5 mana, 3 colorless, 2 white. For an artifact vehicle 4/4, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you exile up to 1 other target creature until Mysterious Limousine leaves the battlefield. If a creature is put into exile this way, you return each other card exiled with Mysterious Limousine to the battlefield under its owner's control. Oh, if a creature is put into exile this way, return each other card exiled with Mysterious Limousine to the battlefield under its owner's control. Crew 2. Let's see what the interwebs has to say about this one, because I'm still a little bit confused about how the hell I'm going to get that to work, but it's a kidnap. Yeah, no one's saying really anything yet, but I guess you'll be... I mean... enters the battlefield or attacks, you exile up to 1 other target creature. So if a creature, of course it's going to be a creature. It's only going to be a creature. You're not exiling anything else. So it shouldn't say if, but, you know, when a creature is put into exile this way, return. I guess you won't always have a creature to exile. But, okay, I get it. I'm starting to get it. So then... sort of like dropping off people around the city in the Mysterious Limousine. Picking them up, dropping them off, picking them up, dropping them off. Yeah, so there can only ever be 1 creature in the limousine. I guess it's going to help with ETB triggers. Okay, I'm starting to get it. Sorry guys, a little slow here tonight. Mysterious Limousine is just going to be like, the creature that you want to have the ETB effect repeated jumps in the vehicle. It's as if it got, phased out or whatever. Not really. No, it's as if it got flickered. And then, the following turn you attack with the Mysterious Limousine. You could just have, like, things that you crew them with that have ETB triggers. So you crew it, you swing, the thing you crewed it with ends up in the limousine, and the thing that was in the limousine from the turn before comes out again. You get the ETB trigger. Then, now this one's on the battlefield, you crew the limousine again with the one that just entered the following turn. You swing, you exile the one that you crewed it with. Okay. Cool. Really cool. Misa likey. A little bit expensive maybe, but wow. Nice card. Next up, Chrome Cat. When Chrome Cat enters the battlefield, scry 1. Meh. Draft chaff. Okay, so we're getting into the commons and stuff here. Strangle. 1 mana sorcery, deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That's nice. That is so nice. It's okay. I mean, they had to make it sorcery speed. Because 1 mana for 3 damage is just really strong. We haven't had that in a long time. I mean, we've got the 1 mana for 4 damage in the form of Voltage Surge now, but you need to sacrifice an artifact to do so. This is just... boom. And it hits planeswalkers. Very nice. Next up, we got Murder. So for those of you who, again, don't follow too much of the lore, not that I do, but I do try and keep a little bit of it in my mind when I go into a new set. I did read all the stories this time around. Xander gets killed by the adversary. Ob Nixilis decided the fastest way to seize control of New Capenna would be to usurp the network of power already hidden there. Xander's maestros were the first to fall. Shoots him off a building. So, I mean, it's Murder. It's just Murder. They reprinted Murder. Destroy target creature, 3 mana. I don't know if I'd just rather play Downfall, Hero's Downfall, or whatever, the one that I've been running in this position. You know, 3 mana, destroy target creature or planeswalker, instant speed. This is only destroy target creature. Meh. Definitely would rather run the Downfall, which used to be rare, by the way. Hero's Downfall, destroy target creature or planeswalker from Crimson Vow. It's just altogether the better card. No? But I guess in Limited, it's going to be nice to have, you know, for those of you who like to play Draft, you'll be able to get access to that, which is quite nice. Next up, we got the Nimble Larsonist. Again, I have not seen this. And again, another bird. And again, a flyer. Are these guys going to be some kind of like, you know, the Obscura? Is it going to be some kind of flying deck? Aggro Esper Flyers? I think so. Because, like I said, it seems like Esper is going in a more creature-based sort of direction. This connive thing is sort of indicating that. And, you know, the second card here that we saw from their family, the Ledger Shredder, also kind of seems to be signaling that. And here we have another one, the Nimble Larsonist, the signpost uncommon for this crime family. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact, instant, and/or sorcery from it and exile that card. It's kind of like a Elite Spellbinder, you know, or there's the new Biting Palm Ninja. You know, there's a lot of these 3-drops that reveal the opponent's hand, and then this happens when you enter the battlefield, just the same as the Elite Spellbinder. Costs 3 mana. It's also got a 1 toughness. It's flyer. A lot of similarities there, but it's got just a little bit more restricted. It's only artifacts, instant, or sorceries, but still pretty damn good. I think if there's going to be this sort of flying aggro Obscura deck, this will be 4 of in there for sure. Then we've got the last of the new Planeswalkers, I think. I wonder if they'll spoil any more, but I think it's going to be just Vivian, Elspeth, and Ob Nixilis. Vivian coming back and giving green a little bit of love. 4 colorless, 2 green for a legendary Planeswalker. Vivian comes into play with 4 loyalty, which is a bit of a at 6 mana, but it's okay because the first ability that you're usually going to be doing is the +2, and that will bring us straight up to 6 on the turn she enters the battlefield. So you may sacrifice a creature. And if you do, you search your library. Wait, let's zoom this up a little bit. You search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put it onto battlefield, then shuffle. Okay, so kind of like the Garuks of old, you know, finding creatures. Just, you don't really want to be sacrificing too many creatures in your mono green deck. But, you know, you could sacrifice a 3-drop and bring out your Ulvenwald Oddity and swing in straight away for 4 damage with, you know, because of the haste. We'll have to see. I'm not a very good green mage, as you guys know, but I do like to give it a try. Obviously, you could just sacrifice the token it makes, but that only has mana value of 0, so, you know, you'd be able to bring out a creature that has mana value of 1, so that's not, you know, that's not helping. It's not one of those Planeswalkers that sort of, like, does its own thing, where the thing that you can sacrifice kind of activates the other ability, so it's gonna have to be something that you've played previously. Maybe in some sort of, like, Golgari shenanigans. Starts to make a little bit more sense, you know? Potentially going alongside Ren, where you're plus 1ing Ren, stuff ends up in the graveyard, you're reanimating it. You know, you're +2ing your Vivian, you're sacrificing the creatures that have ended up in your yard, and you can reanimate, I don't know, some sort of Golgari that I've been trying to build for so long and just still can't quite get to work. Shigeki is now like a new, very important piece of that puzzle. We've also got Nissa. So maybe some like Golgari, Walker's Reanimation deck. Interesting. Can't wait to find out. So again, here we go. Mill 5 cards. You put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand. I think, yeah, looking good for that. Oh, okay. She looks snappy in that fancy art. And this card is crazy. No ultimate. A great +2 that keeps her vitality up and able to throw down a 4/4 blocker for 1 loyalty. I want her in like 4 decks already. Yeah, exactly. Protects herself, tutors with a condition, can refill your hand, seems solid to me. Birthing Pod, yeah, for those of you who play Historic. This is going to be really, really powerful. I'm not entirely sure how to make it work yet, but we'll be giving it our very best try. Then next up, we've got this cycle of common lands. Dual lands, you know, for those of us who, you know, can't afford too many wildcards but still want to have access to dual lands. They've given us the ones that gain life in Kamigawa. These ones sort of eventually cycle, let's say. It's going to be great for limited, mostly. They all do the same thing. They enter the battlefield tapped, then they can add either one of their colors as usual, but then eventually you can pay 2 colors and you know, the 2 colors that it is, sacrifice it, and you draw a card. They all do the exact same thing. Not the best ones, in my opinion. Probably, again, just going to be pretty nice and limited, but I will not be putting these in any of my decks in Constructed. Next up, another elf. Another elf. There was also a little bit of elves in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Like, elf tribal is starting to gonna go in a slightly different direction, maybe. Let's see. But Rumorgatherer is a 3 mana, 1 colorless, 2 white with Alliance. So again, Cabarettis. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you scry 1. So I like it. You're gathering rumors, you get to scry. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead. Oh my god, that is good. Oh my god, that is good. So you can't do it a third time, but the first time you scry, the second time you draw. So good, man. So freaking good. I hope you can see, like, the power, man. That is ridiculous. You get to, I mean, in a deck that already wants to be just casting creatures every single turn. You know, the first time you cast a creature, you look at the top card of your library, you're like, do I need this now? Yeah, okay. Put it to the bottom of your library. Then you play another creature. Draw a card. Or, look at the top card of your library. I definitely need this. Play another creature, you get to draw it. Gonna be able to give, you know, a color combination that has quite little draw. You know, white, red, green. Not really known for, like, just purely drawing cards. And so, Rumorgatherer is gonna definitely be good. This might actually be the other card that Marrow was hinting at, because he said there's 2 cards in white that draw cards. So this might be the second one. Next up, an offer you can't refuse. I knew they had to make at least 1 card with that name, or, you know, somewhere in the text, because it's a very mafia type thing to say. Instant for 1 mana. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. It's a huge downside. You give your opponent 2 treasures. I guess you could counter your own thing that you want to put in the graveyard for whatever reason and get to some ramp, and then we bring it back from the graveyard later, but I don't see why this is any good at all. Let's see what the interwebs are saying. I don't understand why they had to make that uncommon. Really nice illustration, Dallas Williams. Oh. Great fast internet here in Kenya, guys. Here we go. This feels like a stronger swan song. Amazing. But it's cheap. Oh no, people are going to use this on themselves. Yeah, exactly. But So this is blue ramp in eternal formats, especially with Phyrexian mana. Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. But I'm just never a fan of giving the opponent anything, so we'll have to see. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I often am. Next up, Incriminate. 2 mana sorcery, 1 colorless and a black. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by the same player. That player sacrifices one of them. Nice. Nice. That's really nice. You can definitely sort of pick certain creatures so that you get the best possible outcome. You know, you put the opponent in a situation where they don't know which one to pick, and both of them are bad, and then they kill the, they sacrifice the one, and then you kill the other one or something. This will fit nicely in a Turgor deck as well. Then we've got Light 'em Up. We're almost at the end, I promise. Casualty 2. As you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 2 or greater. When you do, okay. So now we know what Casualty does. So Casualty 3 means we need to sacrifice creature with power 2 or greater. There it has to be 3 or greater. When you do, you copy the spell and you may choose a new target for the copy. Haha. So I guess that makes sense with this, like they're doing some pain to him. Cut for the profits. Cool. So Casualty is the number here denotes the power of the thing that you need to sacrifice. Light 'em Up deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So you can copy it by sacrificing a 2-drop and do 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Not bad. Not bad. A little bit of burn spell action there, but I don't know. We'll have to see what other cards kind of come out to support it, what other things we might want to be sacrificing to the Casualty thing here. Meh. Next up, we've got Courier's Briefcase, an artifact treasure. So this you could tap for mana if you had, what's his name out? The Prismari dragon guy. But when Courier's Briefcase enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Sacrifice Courier's Briefcase, add 1 mana of any color, and you can pay Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, and green, sacrifice it, and draw 3 cards. Meh. Meh. Not that fantastic. Alright, let's see if there's anything new. I'm going to do one last little refresh. Nada. So that's going to be it for today's spoilers. I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit rambly, I know, but I'm kind of just figuring out these new mechanics. The next round of spoilers and the next episode of Spoiler Talk is going to be a little bit more concise and to the point, I'm sure. But thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all later tonight for some fresh brews. And until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab signing out. Peace, y'all.